Well, Labor's revised Stage 3 tax cuts have passed through the Senate. The Prime Minister has welcomed the news as the attention turns to Saturday's crucial Dunkley by-election. Joining me now is the Shadow Finance Minister Jane Hume. Jane, great to see you. You voted for this last night, so are you happy where it's landed?
Well, of course, it wasn't the position that we took to the election. Indeed, it wasn't the position that Labor took to the election. But we now know that the Prime Minister lied more than 100 times in the lead up to the election and after the election, saying that he wasn't going to reverse the Stage 3 tax cuts. It's extraordinary that he's out there doing a victory lap to celebrate that lie today. But we did see the tax cuts, the reversal of the Stage 3 tax cuts and the revised version passed the Senate last night without a hitch. There was an awful lot of frothing at the mouth from the Treasurer in the House of Representatives yesterday, saying that the coalition were blocking it or holding it up in the Senate. What an absolute load of nonsense. There really was no urgency to get this through because the tax cuts don't kick in until the 1st of July 2024 anyway, which is 4 months away.
Well, perhaps the political urgency was to do this before the Dunkley by-election. So as we head into the Dunkley by-election, then Jane Hume, what are you telling voters in that electorate? What would you do if you won government at the next election? You'll keep these Stage 3 tax cuts as revised by Labor, but go on better?
Well, we've already said that we will take to the next election a tax package, an income tax package that is that provides lower and simpler and fairer taxes. That's in keeping
for everyone.
With principles of the Stage 3. It's in keeping with the principles of Stage 3. Well, it will be a full tax package. It won't simply be just the original Stage 3 rehashed. We know that simply can't happen now. The Stage 3 tax cuts, as taken to the election by both the coalition and by the Labor government, have been completely junked, which is a demonstration, I think, from this Labor government that they have no appetite for reform of personal income taxes, that they have no appetite to see bracket creep reduced. And bracket creep is pernicious because it robs your future prosperity. That's something we're acutely conscious of and something that we will be factoring in to a coalition's tax package that will come to the next election.
So would you look at removing that main bracket that's the problem there when it comes to bracket creep that Labor's put in that you remove? Would you look at removing that once again? And have you considered putting in another bracket at perhaps a higher level? So, I don't know, $400,000 or $500,000 a year?
So the original Stage 3 tax cuts, which, as you know, Laura, were part of Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3. That was a really carefully calibrated plan that was fair. It maintained the progressivity of our tax system. But at the same time, it reduced bracket creep by getting rid of any bracket creep between $45,000 and $200,000. Now, that is the vast majority of Australians over their working lives. That has been junked. In order to reinstate that, even if we wanted to, would cost around $9 billion a year. Now, there has to be a level of fiscal responsibility that is taken here. We know that we are not just the party of lower, simpler, fairer taxes. We also adhere to the rules of fiscal responsibility because that's the only way that the economy can get ahead. So we will go to the next election with that package that will deliver lower, simpler and fairer taxes, but it will do so in a fiscally responsible way.
Yeah, $9 billion a year, it's a lot. I'll tell you how you could get back that money. You could junk that special GST deal that was done by the Turnbull government, by Morrison at the time when he was Treasurer for WA. That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? Or you just never get those seats back?
It's amazing. It's amazing the way that the knee-jerk reaction to how to fix all Australia's tax woes seem to lie with the GST. Of course, the GST is the state's tax. That's how they fund their operations. I think that if the states would like to see changes in GST, that they would come to us.
No, I'm talking about the deal that was struck
but unfortunately,
by the previous coalition government.
Well, there were reasons for that deal and they are reasons of fairness and equity, and I can understand why they were there.
All right, let's talk about the Dunkley by-election. I know you've been doing your duty on the booths. What's been the feedback? And if Labor's, so terrible, you should be romping this in at the weekend, shouldn't you?
Well, I know that Labor are throwing everything at this by-election. Obviously, a 6.3% margin is very big. It's in any other election, it wouldn't be considered a marginal seat. But it does feel like a marginal campaign on the ground.
I thought it was about a 5%, 6% margin, no?
No, it's 6.3% is the margin that's on the ground, from the last election. And look, I think we need to be really honest about this. For a first-term government, the average swing in a by-election since World War II has been 1.5%, which is, not enormous. And in Victoria, my home state of Victoria, which is, let's face it, a Labor stronghold, in a by-election against a incumbent Labor government, the average swing's been around 0.7%. So, I think that it's quite extraordinary when you see Labor out on the ground there. I was out on Saturday at a polling booth in Frankston, and I've never seen so many red shirts. Now, the good news was there were plenty of blue ones too, but certainly it muscled up. It felt like a marginal seat campaign.
Yeah.
Now, what we're hearing from voters on the ground is there is this white-hot anger, there is this fury that the Albanese government has been focused on things that are important to them rather than important to the people of Dunkley. They have seen their disposable incomes going
fury
backwards.
coming from? Give us an example of what people are saying to you.
Yes, so there's a lot of people that are feeling poorer, and rightly so. If your disposable income's gone back 8.7% in 18 months, you're really feeling it. And it doesn't matter whether they're at the Bowser or at the grocery checkout or paying their electricity bills or their gas bills. Things are really, everything's going up, and there is fury that the Albanese government really hasn't been responding to their needs. Instead, they spent $450 million on a voice referendum last year in which Dunkley clearly voted no, made it very clear that that wasn't the referendum question that they wanted to answer. And I think that's beginning to play out now. Now, the good news is we have a terrific candidate down there. Nathan Conroy has been the mayor for 3 terms. He's been elected by his peers. He's a young man with a great migrant story, a young family who's struggling with the cost of living themselves and rising mortgages, and he has he's really embedded into his community.
Yeah.
So
okay.
He's getting a really
That
good
said,
response at the
I
polling
mean,
place.
the government's on the nose according to you. You've got a really good candidate. So anything short of a victory and taking that seat at the weekend would be a failure then.
6.3% is an enormous margin in which to expect to win a by-election, and I think we need to be really clear about that. This seat, the boundaries have changed. It's a very different seat to the one that Bruce Bilson held so well for so many years. That said, we're leaving nothing on the field here. We've run a good campaign with a fantastic candidate. We have enthusiastic volunteers and a good story to tell, and we are hearing that from the voters. From the voters.
Well, I tell you what,
we would
the
expect
feedback,
to move the dial,
that's not what I'm hearing, actually.
But, let's finish things.
Can I put this to you? The feedback I've been getting, I speak to Simon Welsh once a week. He does focus groups. He's been very focused for Red Bridge Group on Dunkley, speaking to voters there. And he says the overwhelming feedback is apathy. So voters hate both the major parties. Is that not some of the feedback you've been getting?
No, that isn't the feedback I've been getting down there. And whatever it is that people feel for a party, they can also feel quite passionate towards a candidate. We actually have seen a lot of nostalgia and sentiment towards the late Peter Murphy, and that's fair and reasonable. I don't know whether that necessarily determines people's votes, but there's certainly a lot of goodwill towards Peter and her family down there. At the same time, we've also seen a lot of enthusiasm and support expressed for our candidate, Nathan Conroy, because he has already delivered for Frankston in his role of mayor, and we know that he'll deliver for Dunkley too.
Okay, not long to wait, and of course, so we'll have all the coverage here on Saturday night. And Jane, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.